This episode is going to come out a couple days before Halloween, and I thought it would have been a cool idea if we had done the episode in costumes. I got myself a luchador mask, but evidently, as you see by the rest of the panelists there, no one really took to that idea. So instead, we decided to talk about something way scarier: the Montreal Canadiens being 1-6. Welcome to Hockey Inside Out. I'm Julian McKenzie alongside our great panelists today, Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette, Rick Green, formerly of the Montreal Canadiens, and special guest Michael Farber, back for another round at Hockey Inside Out. Thanks so much for filling in as Jessica Rusnak continues to enjoy her time on a beach right now.
Well, week 2, it's my lightning round, so I'm going to go for the gold.
To Jess and her husband on their marriage.
Yes. Yes, of course. Big ups to you, Jess. She will be back, but of course, she has to take her time with her new hubby, of course. While we're back here talking about how the Canadiens are not going through the greatest of times. They lose pretty badly to the Seattle Kraken on Tuesday night. What were your general takeaways, Stu? I want to start with you. What were your general takeaways from that massive loss against the expansion team, Seattle Kraken, for the Montreal Canadiens?
Who was the expansion team again?
I believe it was Seattle.
Yeah, Kraken. Okay, the Canadiens look more like an expansion team, disorganized. They're just a bad hockey team. I think 7 games into the season, 1-6, and they've been blown out in 4 of the 7 games. They've been outscored 25-11. What are the positive points? You would think after Saturday night's win at the Bell Center, which was a real emotional game. The fans were into it. Matthieu Perreault getting the hat trick and the stand chanting his name. They fly into Seattle. They go to the football game the night before. Shea Weber shows up. You think that they'd be fired up coming into this game. Then they get scored on right away. And it went downhill from there. Dan Robertson, the TSN play-by-play guy, sent out a tweet, "Sleepy in Seattle." And that's pretty much what that game was. They were asleep. And they've been asleep since the start of the season, and they better wake up soon, or just playoff spots slipping away. You're not only they're 1-6, they have 2 points out of a possible 14. They haven't even picked up a loser point in the games they've lost, which is hard to do when you're getting blown out. So this is getting uglier with every loss. And the other thing that I took away is that nobody even seemed mad. I mean, apart from Brendan Gallagher slamming the door on the bench at one point, they were just going through the motions. Like nobody, fighting is not in the game now, but throw a body check or just do something. It's just like they were just going through the motions, it seemed to me, in the third period and waiting for the final horn to go, and another loss.
And it's really difficult to see the lack of urgency that they have in their game in all areas. I mean, if you want to break down the different zones, going right from the defensive zone on how poorly they're executing their defensive zone coverage with guys not knowing whether to go forward or to back up. And then the one-on-one battles that they continue to lose is just unacceptable. And with a team that's struggling like the Montreal Canadiens, you have to start to shore up those type of areas in order for you to give yourself a chance to win. And then you go down to how they work their transition game. They can't come up the ice, make a pass from point A to point B with any type of control and enter the zone. And what I noticed last night and a few other games is it's a dump and chase type of situation that they're using. And again, I don't know whether it's a combination of the opposition making it difficult for them to enter, but I'm starting to think that's a question of their skill level, being able to come up the ice under control and execute an entry and, put some pressure on the opposition offensively. And I'm not seeing this type of stuff happening in all areas of their game. It's just really sloppy, lack of execution, and no real determination to make the difference. And like Stu says, you've got to show a little bit of anger and being upset with what's going on. You can't continually see what's going on and accept it. So they got some real problems here, and these guys are going to have to dig down. And I don't know what their next move is, but obviously there's something wrong in their whole mindset, and they better get it going here real soon.
I think you're way too tough on this team. You know how hard it is to play a game when the other team is raising its championship banner?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it's
100
an
years ago.
emotional night. You expect the home team to win. Okay, so it was the 1917 championship banner, but still, credit to the Kraken for rising to the occasion, not like the banner in their new. The first time I heard this phrase was when John Anderson was coaching Atlanta. Rick, it's probably been around a long time. But he said our give a darn, and I'm paraphrasing here, meter wasn't very high tonight. And that's what I took away from game against the Kraken. Canadians just seem very comfortable with losing. Again, every game since the opener, I believe, they gave up the first goal. This time they tied it up. But when you get the goal later in the first period by Tanev, Montreal said, "Okay, not our night," and just kind of played the game. So that would be of concern. And these are things that on the West Coast, where this is not that tough a trip, a couple of time zones, sure, but San Jose, the opponent on the game, they've been going well. That's not a great team. Now you're playing the two LA area team, and they're not so good. If you don't come home with half the points on this trip, to me, that's a red flag.
Yeah, the third goal that Seattle scored, to me, epitomized just how disconnected this team is. You have Brett Kulak skating the puck up nicely out of his own zone, making a really solid play, making a nice pass to Dvorak at the opposition's blue line. He can't handle the puck. Good pass. Meanwhile, for some reason, David Savard is like joining the rush with Brett Kulak. And now it comes back a 2-on-1 against Kulak the other way, and they score. And I'm like, who's doing what? Like, what's happening on that play? Like, a perfect pass right on Dvorak's stick. He can't handle it. Maybe they're squeezing the stick too tight. David Savard is not an offensive threat. Why he's joining the rush with his defense partner is beyond me. And it's a mess. It's just a mess. And that goal, I watched that. I rewound and watched it about 4 more times afterwards, like going, just what's going on here? And I'm sure Dominic Ducharme is doing the same thing when he's watching the videotape.
And I mean, you have to look at the offensive chances that were given to the Kraken. A lot of times it came from turnovers in bad areas. That created the opportunity for Kraken to go on the offense. And then watching them enter the zone and looking at some of the reaction of the defensemen, I've always said and spoken the importance of the way the guys shoot the puck. You have to challenge today's shooters from the top of the circle in, and you can't be passive and being in between. And what I see is the defensemen, a lot of times they're stuck in between instead of aggressively challenging the shooter with what we used to call stick on stick to force maybe a deflection or obviously force him to do something that he doesn't want to do. But right now they're in between. They're giving the opposition way too much time and way too many opportunities to score, and it's killing them. And they're going to have to play a much more aggressive role in their defensive zone to eliminate some of these prime scoring chances. And you can't blame Allen on all of them. I mean, he's made some timely saves. Yes, he could be better on some of the other occasions, but listen, you can't continue to give prime time scoring chances to, I don't care if it's Kraken or whoever it is, and not end up on the losing end. So they got to straighten that part out also.
Yeah. One turnover that sticks out in my mind, speaking of scoring chances that Seattle got, the Alexander Romanov turnover that led to the break from Ryan Donato. It's just not to harp on Alexander Romanov, but we're just seeing we're not seeing the defenseman that the Canadiens kind of bigged up when they brought him into their ranks. And it's been a little disappointing to just kind of see him not necessarily be that player. But he's definitely not the only player worthy of blame on the Montreal Canadiens through these games in this season. It's just the defense has just been like bad. They've been bad. It's not good. They can't bring the puck up, and they're not that good defensively. We can go in on a whole episode on just takeaways from that one game alone. But there are some positives. We mentioned Matthieu Perreault a little earlier on. He did score that hat trick against the Detroit Red Wings. In that game, he was playing third line center. And I have to admit, before the season started, I wasn't really sure about Mathieu Perreault as a third line center. I don't even think he necessarily was thinking too hard about being a center. I kind of saw him as a winger, but he's looked okay. Or I guess, you know what? I should leave it to you guys to tell me what you guys think of Matthieu Perreault as a third line center. Do you see him as that guy for the foreseeable future?
Well, good for Matthieu Perreault, obviously scoring 3 goals the other night. Happy for him. Given an opportunity, he cashed in. He made things happen offensively. He's the type of player. If you look at his past, he had one good year of 18 goals in Winnipeg, but he's not what you call a prolific goal scorer. But what he does, he brings effort. He's a well-liked guy, and to put him in that position again. I think we spoke about him as possible depth player with Evans in there as possibly the third line center. But right now that's what they have, and he's doing a good job. And I got to give him full marks for his effort, and he's trying to make the difference. And that's all you can ask. He seems to really care, unlike some of the other guys.
He hasn't played center for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we really didn't think of Perreault as a centerman here. But yeah, he fits in comfortably enough there, I suppose, if Evans hasn't done enough to secure that position, and Evans can play further down in the lineup. I'd like to go back to that game against the Red Wings and talk about how important that hat trick was. This was, again, we talked last week about morale victories. This was an actual victory against a resounding victory, and after it's over and the hat trick is done, fans are chanting his name, and that's important. And it's a reminder how much there has to be a connection between player and fan in this city, particularly Quebec player and fan in this city. If Mike Hoffman, who's been pretty good, had a hat trick, you think people would be chanting Hoffman, Hoffman, Hoffman? Probably not. But the fact that a Quebec player was doing it matters so very much here. Talking to Serge Savard over the years, he said we need Quebec players because that connection is so very important. And we can't forget that. We can't looking at this only as an exercise in hockey. We have to understand that the Canadiens, a lot of people are much more than that. Mordecai Richler's phrase from 1975, they are a spiritual necessity, and that has to be honored. When someone like Perreault can have a night like that and fans can respond like that, it's a reminder to all of us the role that the Canadiens play in Montreal and in the province.
I agree with you, Mike. The thing is, the Canadiens keep missing out, excuse me, on the good French Quebec players. I love watching Yanni Gourde, play for Seattle and thinking, here's a guy, that the Canadiens could have had, and they seem to miss out on
undrafted player.
Yeah, but it's guys playing in their backyard. The Canadiens haven't done a good job of scouting in their own backyard over the years. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay has, which is sort of inexplicable. But the Canadiens are a donut team, big hole in the middle, and now the hole's even bigger with the loss of Philippe Danault. You think the Habs are missing him just a little bit right now, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi. As Mike mentioned, Perreault hadn't played center for a few years because he had a bad back from taking faceoffs. So Winnipeg had moved him to the wing, but it's a case of who else are you going to put there? Jake Evans isn't a third line center. I'm sorry. I like Jake Evans as a hockey player. He works hard. He's a good fourth line center. We saw him in that third line role. He had at least 2 breakaways I can think of. Couldn't finish. Third line center has to finish on those plays. So Perreault's the guy to put in there now. As you say, he's done he got a hat trick that game. That speaks for itself. The Canadiens are hoping Ryan Poehling would be that third line center moving forward. And as the losses keep piling up here, you wonder if it's not, you may as well put Ryan Poehling in the lineup and play him at third line center and see what you got and live with his mistakes. But it's again, good teams win by being strong down the middle, and the Canadiens just aren't strong down the middle. And now I'm concerned about Jake Evans also because he missed the Seattle game. First time I've ever heard of a player taking a therapy day on game day. We know the concussion history with Evans. Before he missed the first game this season, he took a big hit. He took another big hit before the Seattle game. And I'm wondering and hoping that that's not the situation. The Canadiens said he was out with an upper body injury the first time. And I wonder, moving forward with Jake Evans, if this could be a continuing problem for him. Don't forget, he was carried off the ice twice on a stretcher, being knocked out cold from concussions, once in a rookie game in Laval and the game in the playoffs last year against Winnipeg. So that hole at center for the Canadiens could get even bigger moving forward.
One of the Montreal Canadiens forwards who was expected to kind of shoulder a load for the team this year is Nick Suzuki. And through 7 games, he only has 2 assists. That's not too good, especially for a player of Nick Suzuki's caliber. Michael, I was just curious. Do you think that the contract extension that Nick signed a couple of days ago, 8 years, $63 million, do you think that's kind of weighing on him a little bit?
Why would it? He's been paid, and he's got 8, and actually this year too, years to worry about it. I doubt he's worried about that at all. Maybe he's worried about his own game. Maybe he's worried about not playing with Caufield at times. Maybe something else is going on. They've switched wingers. Lots of stuff is going on. Why he would worry about earning a contract that he has already earned, it was given to him by the Canadiens. I think that's the last thing on his plate. He's a smart player. He's a good player. He's got a flaw in his skating. We know that. I'm sure over the course of the next 8-9 years, we will see improvement in that. And we will see improvement in Nick Suzuki as this team gets better. But he's not the type of Gretzky-like player or Mario Lemieux player you can say, okay, put this team on your back. I mean, right now, Suzuki is 1 of 20.
Yeah, and the contract doesn't kick in until next season, so he's still on his NHL entry-level deal right now. But I think it's maybe more the pressure of being put into that number 1 center role, undisputed number 1 center role. He had Philip Deneau there to isolate him a bit in the past. Dvorak's there now. I've seen some reasons for concern with Dvorak. I can think of at least a couple of goals where he sort of gave up on a back check and allowed the opposition to score, which is something Philip Deneau never did. So I think just the being thrust into that number 1 center position, taking key faceoffs. He still, Mike mentioned his skating, but I mean, his biggest struggle has been in the faceoff circle. He's still struggling with that. He's being put in different situations that he wasn't put into, I don't think, when Deneau was here. Maybe tougher matchups, and he's struggling with it. And he's still a young guy. The Canadiens with that contract were banking on his future, that he will become the player they hope he will become, sort of like they hoped Jesperi Kotkaniemi would become the player, sort of like they hoped Alex Galchenyuk would become the player. Hopefully for the Canadiens' sake, the development process goes better with Suzuki. I think Suzuki's a different character than the guys I mentioned there. I'm confident he will continue to develop. Will he be a $63 million man? We'll see. But right now, there's a lot of pressure on him, and not the. I think the role he's been put into might be weighing on him more than the actual contract. And when things go bad, and it's easy to be good when everything's going good on a team. When things are going bad, it's tough, and he's having a tough time right now, and he's not alone. I mean, he's not alone as the guys on this team struggling.
Yeah, I agree with you, Stu. The expectations obviously were very high as far as what this kid can do, and looking at his overall play, I don't see him skating as well as he's skated, before. I think he's struggling in his ability to get to areas that he needs to get to. And right now, like we've talked about, there's a lot of guys that are struggling that aren't complementing each other, no matter what line he's with. He's a skilled guy. Everybody's looking to him to do some great things, but he's still a young guy, and he's still, he teased us a little bit with some of the great play that he's done in the past, but he's got to find his track again. But I don't see, obviously, right now that he's in a good mindset, and it goes with the overall team play. And he's a quality kid. That's why they signed with that big contract. He's going to find his way, but going to need a guy like this to bring his A game real soon to bring everybody else along, because he's obviously a key part of this organization.
And if you compare Suzuki to a guy like Hoffman was brought in here for one reason, right? To score goals. That's all the Canadiens are expecting him to do, is score goals, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. With Suzuki, they're expecting him to score goals, get assists, take key faceoffs, be a 200-foot player, do everything. And as I said earlier, I think that might be weighing on him just a little bit at this point.
So the responsibility might be the case of why Nick Suzuki might not be producing as much. What about his buddy Cole Caufield, who only has 1 assist in 7 games? Stu, why do you think Cole Caufield has started off as slowly as he has?
Yeah, 7 games without a goal for Cole Caufield. That's not something he's used to.
Nope.
This is a guy who's probably scored goals since he was 5 years old, natural goal scorer. But what's concerning to me is that he looks like he's lost confidence for sure, but he looks timid. He looks like he's not darting around like he was when he first came up last year. Defensemen, big guys like Rick Green, are just sort of grabbing him and pushing him into the wall and holding him there, and he's not able to fight his way out of it. He's struggling against the boards. We've always known he was a small guy. He came in last year, and I think he maybe caught some defensemen by surprise with just how quick he was. I know he was quicker than I thought he was. That shot we've all known, but the NHL game right now, and Rick would know this also, being a former coach, there's so much video done, and if you have any tendencies or any things that defensemen will catch up on it, and coaches will, and if you become predictable, it can be strong. But I think right now for Caufield, the goals aren't coming. He's probably squeezing the stick a little bit, and he looks, as I said, he looks a little timid. He looks going over the blue line like he's sort of worried he's going to get hit, and that's a concern.
Well, and for whatever it's worth, I mean, if you look at him in comparison to other players with scoring chances for, he's in the top category of getting chances. The problem with him is everybody expects him to score after, seeing what he brought last year. And right now, I mean, you look at his game. He does get chances to score. They're not happening. He's getting, obviously, like a lot of them, frustrated that they're not going in. But again, there's a young kid. There's a lot of hype on, what he's going to do for the Montreal Canadiens as a next new superstar. And right now, there's growing pains with him, seeing how he handles adversity. And he's a good kid. He's got great skills. He's going to find his way out of this, but he's going to need some help with the guys that are around him. But, you go down the list and everybody's kind of in the same boat, struggling to score goals. He's a bona fide goal scorer. He will find the net, but it's going to take some help from, each and every one on the roster of the Montreal Canadiens.
I think Rick nailed it when he said he's getting opportunities. You're not going to score on every opportunity. If he weren't getting any chances, then you'd worry. He is a baby. When he came out of Wisconsin last season, it took him a while. Remember, when's he going to score? When's he going to score? Finally nailed it. And he went on a bit of a run. So we expect instant gratification. We expect the track will be linear, that there will not be any detours. And that's not true of anybody basically not named Gretzky. I mean, there are going to be ups and downs. He is not a worrisome part of this slump from my perspective. Yeah, you'd want a little more, and you think a little more will be coming. But as long as he continues to get chances and perhaps plays with a little more brio, a little more bravado than he has, things will happen. Goal scorers, if you're a 40-goal guy, you're not getting a goal every second day, every second game. You're getting them in bunches, and that's what I expect will happen when things turn around for Caufield, and I think they will.
It's a big difference between NCAA hockey and NHL hockey, especially when you make the jump directly from NCAA hockey to NHL hockey. If you go through the list of Hobey Baker Award winners of the best players in U.S. college hockey through the years, which Cole Caufield won last year, a lot of those guys didn't have success in the NHL. I'm not saying Cole Caufield won't have success in the NHL. With that shot he has, that was an elite level shot, and he's going to score goals. But right now, again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think he doesn't have a lot of experience going through goal scoring slumps. And it certainly looks like it's weighing on him now. And from the Canadian standpoint, you hope that once he gets that first one, they'll start to come in bunches, as Mike said. But it's not, going from NCAA hockey directly to the NHL is not an easy step for anyone, even Cole Caufield, as we're seeing right now.
Go ahead, Rick.
Sorry, Julian. I was just going to say I'd be more concerned if you did notice it when he's on the ice. I mean, again, he's not getting the results, but when he's on the ice, he's trying to make things happen, and the kid is fun to watch, and he's going to get it figured out, and when he does, I hope it's obviously real soon, because he's going to be a good player.
Yeah, the Canadiens are going to need it. But yeah, I don't necessarily think he's been as timid as you might think, Stu. In some of the games that I've seen Cole Caufield play this year, even if he has not necessarily scored in those games, he's trying to drive play. He's been holding on to the puck. He's been trying to create plays. There was one game, I don't think it was the Detroit game. It might have been the game before. He tried to complete a pass from his stomach. Like, Cole Caufield is able, at least once every game he's played this year, he's tried to do something pretty incredible, even if it hasn't necessarily turned into a goal. There's another game, he literally skated the heck out of some other Detroit Red Wing in front of him out of his skates. Like, dude is able to, do some crazy things with the puck, and he's one of the more skilled guys I've seen in the Montreal Canadiens for quite some time. It's just that he just hasn't been able to score. And when it comes to the power play, I mean, look, the Canadiens power play has not been good. Other teams have been able to figure that out. And if they're able to be figured out that way, I mean, a guy like Cole Caufield is not going to be able to convert many chances, especially if they're not necessarily coming his way. I think it's more a combination of him just not bearing the chances that he has, and other defenses just kind of figuring out the system of the Montreal Canadiens, and it's ultimately limiting the amount of chances he could get. I don't know if it's necessarily because of the fact that he's not necessarily he definitely needs to be more selfish with when he has the puck, but I don't know if timid is the right way of characterizing Cole Caufield. I think he's got it. He just needs to convert. Goals come in bunches, right? So let him get one, and then maybe the dam breaks and he starts getting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 40, maybe not 40.
Well, as Mike said, if you're a 30 goal scorer in the NHL, that means there's at least minimum 52 games that you don't score, because the odds are you're going to get a couple of games where you get 2 goals or 3 goals or whatever. So he's got 7 games now that he hasn't scored. So they're at the beginning of the season. All goal scorers go through scoring slumps. Tyler Toffoli, I asked him about this earlier this week, and he said, I've gone 13, 14 games before in the NHL without scoring. But again, the key right now is just for Caufield to get that first one, and then we'll see if more will follow after that.
Yep. We'll have to see about. Do you think Cole Caufield scores Thursday? I think he's going to score Thursday. Yeah, I'll just put that out there. Cole Caufield will snap out of the goal drought on Thursday. And if I'm wrong, well, we can just play this and I'll just look like the big idiot that I already am. Well, that's going to do it.
They get 1 goal a game, so that would be the Canadiens.
Man, we really didn't talk about that either. The fact that aside from that Detroit game, this team has not been able to get past like 1 goal. That is very, very worrisome. Like the Matthieu Perreault explosion. That was an aberration at this point when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens. But yeah, we could do a whole other episode on the goal scoring woes for the Montreal Canadiens, and hey, maybe we'll cover some other stuff in the bonus episodes coming up. That's going to do it for our full episode of Hockey Inside Out. Michael, thank you so much again for filling in these last few weeks, and Rick and Stu, of course, the usuals here. Thank you as always. Subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out newsletter, montrealgazette.com/newsletters. Subscribe to the YouTube page and check out hockeyinsideout.com for more fun stuff. Peace.